Natlan is going to make me broke. You know, never before in this game have I felt so specifically and aggressively marketed towards with a run of characters, and more specifically Milani right now. It's not just her though. We know Kachina has Overworld application as well in the cool outlines, and so does Kanichi. Granted, we don't have Kanichi yet, but from the videos, I mean, like, he looks pretty damn crazy, and in Natlan he's probably going to be just as crazy as he looks. Now outside of Natlan, that's a little bit of a different story, because once 6.0 comes around, well, they're going to be a lot less useful than we're used to them right now. But for time being, they're amazing. But coming into Natlan, I was so confident that I was finally going to be able to spend a little bit less money on genshin, not be so tempted by every character. They come out the gate with a Hydro character. Okay, I can stay strong. I skipped Sejuin, Seguin, whatever the hell her name is, no problem. But she was kind of weak, so that's not really that big a deal. But Milani, what if she is really strong? I tell myself, well, who cares if she's strong? I have New Valette, and there is pretty much no chance that she is going to be stronger than New Valette. Certainly not my C3R1 New Valette, so really I have nothing to worry about. Then they made a new type of trial. Those crafty 6 sons of bitches over at Hoyoverse knew exactly how they could get players like me hooked, and that is making a brand new type of trial that specifically shows them off in the overworld more than it does in combat. Within hours of doing that trial, I took my shiny pile of 35k primos that was very lazily saved up over time and turned them into one Chi-Chi, one Milani, and her weapon. Why her weapon, you might ask? Seems like a needless expense. Well, I wasn't going to take New Valette's catalyst away from him, and of the minimal amount of catalysts on my account, that is definitely the best fit. So, her weapon. I'm definitely going to come to regret that one later. The funny thing is while the trial did me dirty with the overworld highlight part, it actually didn't really surprise me and kind of did the opposite with Milani in combat. Now, just the fact that I got her weapon means that I have faith that I will grow to like Milani, and that I'm going to chalk up my poor experience with her as user error. Me playing her wrong and just not really getting the best experience with her or preview of what she can actually do. Obviously, like, she plays a little odd. I'm very excited to actually build her up properly and try her out in a real setting with a real team. I think I will grow to like her, but the point is, like, if a character like Milani can tempt me, even though her combat trial is pretty mad to me and I haven't felt that way in a while, well, I'm just gonna have a bad time. Like, obviously it's gonna be fun and exciting, but it's gonna be hard to come up with enough primos to actually fund this crap, especially when we haven't even talked about constellations. And we all know that mobility constellations tend to be the C1, C2, Milani's a C1, and I have a feeling that every single 5-star that comes out is going to have one of these. Though, now that I think about it, I'm not sure. I can't remember of any 5-stars that have some kind of overworld ability, you know, like Yelan or Cloud Retainer. They seem to always have a constellation that somehow affects it, whether it be charges, cooldown reduction. I mean, I guess Alhaitham doesn't really, but his skill is such a long cooldown that I don't even count that as an overworld ability. Okay, I guess Farina doesn't have anything that actually impacts her water walking, but it's so crazy, like, what more could you do with it except, you know, maybe run faster on water? And I don't think Wanderer does either, so maybe there's hope. Maybe not every character is going to have something, but given that overworld mobility is kind of like the theme of Natlan based on what the 5.0 livestream said, I wouldn't exactly be surprised if everybody had some kind of constellation that does something, especially if they're going to do it like Milani C1, where, like, it does overworld stuff, but it also just gives her a little nuke as well, which is another fantastic way to swindle me out of my savings. So now I want to switch things up. I just want to talk about Milani and Natlan, because obviously I've been playing, and I've been playing with Milani, not that she is fully built yet, but goddamn, is she fun? The region is fun, and I can't say I regret my purchase. Exploring Natlan with Milani, and especially getting her own ascension materials, has actually been fun. And I don't think any time I've ever gathered an ascension material I would ever describe as being a fun experience. Except for obviously the joy of knowing that you're building a new character and that you're going to have them leveled up soon. But no, this is actually a genuinely fun experience moving around the world and gathering a material. Not only because, one, we got the collect little thing, you know, click on the tooltip and it shows you where they go. And of course, Milani has the passive that allows her to track Natlan materials, and that lovely combo means I don't have to use an interactive map, which genuinely kind of sucks the fun out of overworld or open world games for me. So needless to say, that's been really nice. Great job adding that feature, Hoyoverse. It's just fun moving around, and every time you gather one of her materials, or literally anything in Natlan pretty much, you restore some of your little phlogiston meter, or phlogiston meter, whatever the hell, your philosopher's stone meter. And essentially, while you're surfing around at a really fast speed that feels really good, every little thing everything you interact with is pretty much refueling your bar entirely, and then your philanthropy meter is going to last forever, and you can honestly surf for minutes at a time. I'm sure once mine actually gets strong enough to fight on her own, it's going to be even more fun, but it's fun, like, and holy I didn't even talk about the fact that while you're running with other characters, you can just swap right into her and start surfing. The same with Kachina with her little drill, even while climbing. Like, honestly, it doesn't, there are a lot of times in Natlan where you don't even feel like you're playing Genshin Impact anymore. And not in a bad way, because normally in a lot of times when you say that in a game, it's kind of in a negative light. In this case, I feel like all these changes were positive, like Genshin is moving forward, and not in the kind of slow ways that it has been in the past. I think every new region is better than the last, which is not a new feeling for me. Genuinely, I always prefer the newest region, but Fontaine, it feels like it was like several versions ago in terms of how much better Natlan is quality-wise. I also don't want to make it sound like I'm crapping on Fontaine. I love Fontaine. I do still have a lot of it to explore. I'm not going to say like I've thoroughly seen all there is to see, but what I have experienced is the enemies were really good, but I think Natlan's enemies are way more creative. The overworld, I do love the water areas. Genshin did underwater really well, but so far, Natlan is an amazing experience with its varied terrain, colorful, it's fun. The Saurians are a really interesting mechanic. Some of them have a little bit of nuance to them. The puzzles are incredibly satisfying. Maybe not all puzzles, but like the racetracks and the time trials and stuff, really, really fun mechanics. I feel like they managed to use a lot of the types of puzzles they had before, but in fresh coats of paint that really almost make you feel like you are playing something entirely new with just how scenic it is. Then of course, it's Genshin. The soundtrack is amazing. Now I'll say Fontaine's soundtrack, it didn't really do it for me. Sumeru's was probably the peak of all the regions we've had so far, and before that, I probably liked Liyue's the most. Natlan is putting them all to shame. Of course, I think it's also important to talk about the fact that this coincided with the increase to world level 9, something that I've been asking for a very, very, very long time. And while world level 9 is not some colossal increase in difficulty, it's definitely improved my experience in the overworld. Like, don't get me wrong, it is satisfying to slaughter everything in the overworld with like one hit, but I also want things to survive so I can actually use my abilities. Some characters actually get punished in the overworld because they kill things a little too quick and don't refund their burst if they rely on it for an infusion, kind of like Ito and Sino. Thankfully, World Level 9 seems to have fixed pretty much all of the major problems in this regard. But the enemies are decently strong. They're certainly not overwhelmingly strong. And it's not like there are Abyss enemies roaming the world, but they're a lot closer to the Abyss than they used to be, especially the world bosses. I went to fight the new little Saurian today, the fat one, and not only is that boss adorable, and I love it, but good God, did that thing ever survive one hell of a beating from my double Hydro Arlecchino team, which not only has a C2 R1 Arlecchino, but a C4 R1 Yu'lon. And I can tell you from the experience of me farming a lot of bosses before Natlan came out, yes, I know it made no sense to do that, but I was so sick of farming artifacts, I wasn't doing anything else. I was farming tons of bosses to ascend on my characters. And most bosses with that team didn't even need Yu'lon or Xingqiu to activate their abilities. Everything would just die to a couple swings of a fully life-bonded Arlecchino. And my God, don't even get me started on local legends. I only played around with a couple so far, and they are absolutely insane. Like, they will straight up one-shot people through Zhongli shields in the right scenarios. It's crazy, but I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. Local legends were already like pretty much exactly what I wanted some real overworld threats to be, and I'm really happy that they are continuing with that. And well, if you haven't seen them yourself, I'm sorry to spoil it for you, but yeah, there are some tough ass enemies you are going to encounter in Natlan.
Attaboy!